Thank you, Madam Speaker. Esteemed colleagues, for nearly 4 decades, the 1987 Philippine Constitution has stood as the bulwark of our democratic institutions. It emerged from a moment of national renewal, embodying the collective aspiration for justice, liberty, and accountable governance. Yet time, historical experience, and the evolving exigencies of governance compel us to revisit the Constitution's wording with objectivity. Certain unclear provisions bear the unmistakable marks of drafting errors, deficiencies that must be addressed with the aim of coming up with a charter founded on unambiguous language. I rise today not in opposition to the 1987 Constitution, but in fidelity to its enduring promise. The Constitution is a living and breathing instrument, not because it is meant to bend to every political trend, but because its vitality depends on its clarity, coherence, and adaptability to the needs of the people. The imperative of textual clarity in constitutional drafting cannot be overemphasized. The Constitution draws its authority from the definitiveness of its language. When its provisions are vague or inconsistent, the result is not a richer interpretative tradition, but a weaker legal foundation. Madam Speaker, the law derives its authority from the precision of its language. As the supreme law of the land, the Constitution must speak with clarity and force. Its provisions must be comprehensible not only to courts and legislators, but to the citizens whose rights it enshrines. Unclear constitutional provisions strain judicial resources and time. Ambiguities invite constant litigation, requiring the Supreme Court to resolve textual uncertainties rather than focus on pressing constitutional questions or develop coherent doctrine. High-profile constitutional disputes are time-consuming and delay other urgent matters, turning the judiciary into an arbiter of political standoffs rather than a guardian of constitutional order. We have seen how ambiguity has led to political crises and institutional paralysis. These gaps in the constitutional text erode the stability that they are meant to preserve. Even worse, the erosion of legal certainty undermines the rule of law itself. Vague provisions permit multiple interpretations, encouraging selective or politically motivated enforcement, and blurring the line between lawful governance and abuse of discretion. It is within these gray zones that power is most easily exploited. Constitutional loopholes, often rooted in imprecise language, allow opportunistic actors to justify unlawful conduct under the guise of plausible interpretation. Without clarity, checks and balances can be undermined and constitutional protections rendered hollow. Today, I submit to this august chamber that while the provisions of our Constitution are noble in aspiration, certain provisions are marked by ambiguity and procedural deficiency. These deficiencies do not merely complicate interpretation. They obstruct reform, hinder effective governance, and erode public trust. As we have seen with recent events, even a phrase as seemingly as to forthwith proceed can cause considerable discord in its interpretation. Article 11, Section 3 and 4 on impeachment states that in case the verified complaint or resolution of impeachment is filed by at least 1/3 of all the members of the House, the same shall constitute the articles of impeachment, and the trial by the Senate shall forthwith proceed. While the word forthwith was intended to signal urgency and mandatory action, its implementation has been repeatedly delayed, sidestepped, or redefined, with the Senate, through a majority vote, remanding the articles of impeachment to the House of Representatives. Very recently, we witnessed the institutional friction caused by the legislative branch's inconsistent interpretation of this mandate, one which sparked public confusion and which continues to do so. What should have been a procedural safeguard against delay has instead become a source of deadlock and controversy. This development raises serious constitutional and jurisprudential questions. Does the legislature now view the recent interpretation as forthwith, as applicable to all similar clauses in the Charter? Can the clear urgency mandated by constitutional language now be indefinitely stalled under the guise of interpretative discretion? This episode illustrates the far-reaching implications of imprecise constitutional terminology. Even a single ambiguous word can become the justification for legislative inaction, procedural manipulation, or worse, the loss of accountability itself. Among the clearest examples of constitutional ambiguity are provisions that were the result of acknowledged drafting lapses, a fact admitted by no less than the framers themselves. These are not matters of judicial interpretation. These are clear textual flaws identified from the very beginning, yet left unresolved in the body of the Charter. In a 2021 article published in the Cambridge University Press entitled "The Constitution of the Philippines and Transformative Constitutionalism," international constitutional law academic Professor Surabhi Chopra observed that vague and aspirational provisions in the Philippine Constitution have contributed to a disconnect between constitutional rhetoric and enforceable policy. While Professor Chopra focused on constitutional provisions involving social justice and human rights, we need not look far to see examples of what she describes as vague and unclear provisions. For example, Article 8, Section 8 on the Judicial Bar Council outlines the composition and mandate of the JBC, which is tasked with recommending appointees to the judiciary. The provision lists the members of the council. It says, including a representative of Congress, without specifying how that representation should function within a bicameral legislature. This lack of clarity led to years of alternating representation between the Senate and the House, and eventually a Supreme Court ruling in Chavez versus JBC, where it was ruled that only one member of Congress, and not one from each chamber, may sit in the JBC at any given time. The court based this ruling on the textual use of the single term, a representative, concluding that any deviation from this would constitute a circumvention of the Constitution. While this settled the legal question, the broader debate remains unresolved. Critics argue that the ruling elevated a drafting oversight to binding doctrine, thereby limiting the intended congressional role in judicial appointments. Others contend that the framers may have deliberately sought to limit legislative influence in this process, treating Congress as a unicameral body for JBC purposes. It does not look like that is actually what happened. In either view, the result remains an awkward compromise, a single congressional representative alternating between the Senate and the House, 6 months each. They serve on a collegial body that is otherwise stable in composition. They are the only ones that share a term. Several reform proposals have since emerged, including constitutional amendments to clarify the JBC provision. Until these reforms are undertaken, however, The current arrangement reflects a literal but limited reading of the constitutional text. Other provisions also require clarification. For instance, Article 6, Section 28, Paragraph 4, which states that no law granting any tax exemption shall be passed without the concurrence of a majority of all the members of Congress, has led to interpretative confusion over whether Congress is to act as a joint body or in separate chambers. The wording also appears to presume a unicameral legislature, despite the fact that the Philippines has a bicameral Congress. This has implications not only for how tax exemption laws are passed, but also for determining quorum and voting thresholds in key fiscal decisions. Similarly, Article 7, Section 19, regarding the grant of amnesty by the President with the concurrence of a majority of members of Congress, has likewise sparked procedural uncertainty. Although the Constitution requires presidential amnesty to be concurred in by a majority of all the members of Congress, it fails to specify whether this concurrence must occur through a joint vote or separate votes by the Senate and the House. During former President Noynoy Aquino's administration, procedural ambiguity in this constitutional provision came to the fore through Proclamation number 75, which granted amnesty to the members of the Magdalo Group, including former Senator Antonio Trillanes IV. In 2010, Congress approved the amnesty via joint session, but not without debate. Some lawyers argued that Senate concurrence alone might suffice, while others believed bicameral concurrence was implied, but procedurally undefined. The issue resurfaced again in 2018 when former President Duterte attempted to revoke Trillanes' amnesty in Proclamation number 572, citing procedural lapses such as failure to personally apply and admit guilt. This move reignited constitutional debate over whether the original amnesty had been validly concurred in and whether revocation was legally permissible. This lack of procedural clarity in Article 7, Section 19 has since been recognized as a source of institutional confusion, underscoring the need for textual correction. All these provisions exemplify the high costs of ambiguous constitutional wording. Left uncorrected, they generate procedural impasses, facilitate inconsistent enforcement, and ultimately degrade the Constitution's reliability as the supreme law of the land. A Constitution that fails to provide clear, unambiguous guidance undermines its own purpose as the country's fundamental law. When its wording is subject to multiple interpretations, the predictability of law dissolves, opening the door to legal confusion and arbitrary application. Another glaring example that has not been subject to as much discussion are barangay elections. While regular elections for national and local officials are guaranteed under Article 10, Section 8 of the 1987 Constitution, which provides that, and I quote, the term of office of elective local officials, except barangay officials, shall be 3 years. There is a notable silence regarding fixed terms for barangay officials. This omission has enabled a pattern of deferral without violating express constitutional mandates. It has been common practice for Congress to postpone the barangay elections, making a clear democratic right of our citizenry subject to political whims. Congress has repeatedly postponed these elections in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2019, and in 2022 through the following legislations: Republic Act 9340 in 2005, Republic Act 10923 in 2016, Republic Act 10952 in 2017, Republic Act 11462 in 2019, and Republic Act 11935 in 2022. These postponements, often justified by budgetary constraints or political expediency, have led to extended holdovers and eroded democratic accountability at the most local level of government. A constitution that allows repeated legislative interference in electoral timelines without limit is a constitution vulnerable to manipulation. This consistent pattern of deferring barangay elections through legislation not only circumvents the electoral mandate of the people, but also undermines the constitutional promise of regular periodic elections. It reinforces a perception that political convenience can override democratic principles, and it places incumbents in a position of extended power without renewed consent from their constituents. Without a fixed term enshrined in the Constitution, there is little to prevent future legislators from continuing this practice indefinitely, especially when it serves their political interests. As a result, what was envisioned to be a routine exercise in democratic governance becomes an arena for strategic delay and manipulation. This illustrates the broader dangers of constitutional vagueness. It creates loopholes that can be normalized over time. The damage is not only procedural, it is deeply psychological. When the most democratic exercise, the right to vote in timely elections, is continuously deferred, citizens are left disillusioned and alienated from the institutions meant to serve them. In two recent columns for the Manila Times, Time to Consider Amendments, an article on June 16, 2025, and Constitutional Amendment and Rule of Law in July 7, 2025. Constitutional law scholar Father Ranhilio Aquino of San Beda underscores the urgency of revisiting the 1987 Constitution. He writes that, for the sake of democracy and the rule of law, the Constitution must be a current document, a document kept up to date so that its provisions may stably anchor the actions of administration, the statutes passed by the legislature, and the application of the laws to actual cases and controversies by the judiciary. Father Aquino highlights the pitfalls of vagueness and ambiguity, stating that so much uncertainty brings and has brought our country to the very brink of a catastrophic standoff between the branches of government, or even, as now, between chambers of the same legislature. To say that no draftsmanship is ever perfect is to belabor the obvious. To write off any amendment of the Constitution toward greater clarity is to foreclose, quite irrationally, the possibility of improvement. Echoing this view, former Acting Justice Secretary and Constitutional Law Professor Alberto Agra has also publicly supported a constitutional convention, stating that updating the Charter is a vital step to clarify powers and remove legal uncertainty that impairs good governance and economic competitiveness. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I do not stand before this chamber to prescribe solutions to these complex legal dilemmas. But I do contend with deep conviction that the Filipino people deserve a constitution that speaks plainly and very clearly. A constitutional convention offers the most prudent, transparent, and participatory mechanism to address these enduring ambiguities. It allows the people, through their chosen delegates, to correct textual deficiencies, reconcile contradictions, remove ambiguities, institutionalize much-needed reform, and ensure that the foundational law of the land meets the needs of a dynamic and democratic society. A constitutional convention ensures singularity of purpose, that is, to formulate and propose changes to the Constitution. Unlike a constituent assembly, they will not be preoccupied nor derailed with lawmaking, oversight functions, and impeachment concerns. Through a constitutional convention, conflict of interest would be avoided, broader representation. Wherefore, Madam Speaker, I will be filing forthwith a joint resolution calling for the convening of a constitutional convention, not a constituent assembly, but a constitutional convention. Once again, Madam Speaker, this is not a call to discard the Constitution. It is a call to complete and correct it. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Thank you so much, Representative Puno.